Hey Acers, welcome back to the ACE Roleplaying Games Club channel, where I'm here to teach you about how to game master and using Savage Worlds as the game system. My name's Mason Emerson, and I have been a game master in Savage Worlds for over 5 years now, and I am glad to be helping you to learn some of the tricks that a newer guy like myself has learned over the years. Now, like I said at outsets and different parts of this channel, I learned a lot of what I know from listening to a podcast that is now defunct, and I wouldn't recommend you really seek it out because it's pretty crass. And as teenagers, your parents would kill me if I recommended it. So I want you guys to be able to play and tell your own stories, and that's why we are here today to talk about the next part of Savage Worlds, and specifically with the Adventure Kit. And in the Adventure Kit, there is a really cool section on chases and vehicles, because I'll just read the opening paragraph here. One of the most thrilling staples of adventure film, television, and fiction is the chase. This simple twist on regular combat rules that we're about to go into lets you race muscle cars over blasted deserts, track freestyle runners across concrete jungles, and even recreate desperate dogfights in sky and in the depths of space. So we are going to use these rules. If we just want to find out if the hero catches the fleeing foe, or if we just want to narrate the battle and just not worry about some of the tactical side of things, then let's go ahead and just do it with quick encounter rules, which are later on in the adventure toolkit. But if we want to really kind of get a little gritty and have a kind of a cinematic chase, and I've seen some cool chase layouts and everything, but we're going to use this for a little more detail. And they're still mobile and adjustable, and you use as much or as little of them as you need. There are also there's the basics of scale, and here's how it works: is that the participants, they will vie for position using chase cards and a track of relative distance. So this is abstracted. This is how you adjust according to. So you're going to lay out like 7 cards in a row, and those 7 cards are going to be the whatever distance it is you're actually chasing on. I had a chase on the ocean the other day of an armed submarine chasing an unarmed ship with players. So the pilot of the boat, he was making the rolls, and the other people were making support rolls. Some people were making shooting rolls. So it's pretty much there. So let's talk about what kind of skills we're looking for in maneuvering. And maneuvering, the word maneuver has always just been a weird, just odd spelling for me because it comes from French, obviously. But it's just one of those weird words, maneuver. Anyway, my wife finds the word laundry funny. So anyway, depending on how the chase is happening and what kind of chase we're in, will determine what kind of skill you're going to need to roll as the skill for the chase. So if it's an airplane or a spaceship, that's piloting. If it's on foot or on a bike, you're rolling athletics. If it's on a mount or in a wagon, it's riding. If it's in a driven vehicle of some sort, it's driving. And if it's on the water in watercraft, it's boating. So those are simply the skills that you're going to be using. And you're dealing with distances here, of basically range. So it's the number of chase cards between participants, not counting the attacker's card. So the range of a card to another card when you're running on foot, when you're mounted on a horse or in a vehicle, the range increment's about 5. If you're on an airplane or in a sailing ship, it's about 25, and jets or starships, it's about 50. So those are the, excuse me, those are the range increments that you got to worry about when you're, so each card represents so much distance. So if there's a card between you and the person who's shooting at you and chasing you, then that card that they shoot at you is going to be, or that's going to be that's going to increment the range. So if you're 2 cards away, that's 5, 10 spaces essentially, or ranges, and those ranges are going to determine whether or not that weapon or vehicle is in, or that weapon or that thrown weapon or whatever is in range to hit you. So that's what you're looking at with range, and it kind of gives you also an idea of, it's a number of feet between the player and the thing or creature or person they're chasing, the person that's chasing them. So in a critical failure, the standard results for a critical failing on the maneuvering roll are listed in the book here. But with a mounted roll a d6. If it's a 1 or 2, the rider loses his turn. If it's a 3 to 4, the mount suffers fatigue, and this applies to the animal's rolls and the rider's rolls. So there will be a -1 to all rolls, or a -2 if they're already fatigued. And a 5 or 6, the rider suffers fatigue from a bad bounce, a low-hanging obstacle, like they get clobbered or something, or overexertion of trying to control his animal. Also, you could narrate that they get knocked off their horse if on a 5 or a 6. So in a vehicle, the operator rolls on the out of control table, and if they're walking or running, even if they lose, you roll a die. If it's even, they lose the rest of their turn as they stumble and renegotiate the obstacle, or take a wrong turn. If on odd, they suffer fatigue. So, like I said, we're going to set up, what you're going to do is you're going to get your action deck, or a second action deck, which is why, as a game master, I always recommend you have at least 2 decks of cards. And what you're going to do is, this is the closest, even in Theater of the Mind, we get to maps and minis. And it's just to abstractly represent what's going on. So we lay out 7 cards in a row. In this case, we got Queen of Hearts, 4 of Hearts, Ace of Hearts. Do we have a theme going here? Queen of Clubs, 9 of Hearts, 7 of Diamonds, and 6 of Diamonds. No clubs, which could be good or could be bad. Actually, I'm going to pause here for a second on the recording, and I'm going to get another smaller deck so I can use this faster and easier. So I was going to I started getting stuff out, and I was like, oh, even better than a chase with just a regular deck, I could use the chase deck, the narrative rules for the chase deck, from the cool chase deck that I just got from Deadlands. But it's got a whole new set of chase rules for a narrative chase deck. So that's one that we're going to have to look at later. So, since we're not going to be using the Deadlands narrative chase deck, we're going to go ahead and use this deck instead. Just because my desk has limited space right now. I've got a few things on here I got to clean up. So I would rather just clean it up later, and yeah, good stuff, good times. So let me pull off the 2 back cards, and I'm going to shuffle, and we're going to redeal this chase. So I always loved that when my dad could do that. He always was good at playing cards. It's partially because of him that I learned my first couple magic tricks, and then that's how I was able to impress my erstwhile magic instructor and he taught me a little bit more magic, and then we went and did a magic show. But he and I have parted ways, and it's okay. So anyway, so let's lay out the deck again, the chase again. Only this time we're just going to do it faster. 1, 6 clubs. 2, 2 of clubs. Oh. 3, 2 of hearts. 4, king of clubs. If things go sideways here, that's bad. 5. I'm not sure. There we go. 5 of diamonds. 6, 9 of spades. And 7, 4 of spades. Okay, so that's our chase rack, our chase course. And on this, the good guys are going to be represented by a blue chip. And the bad guys are going to be represented by the red chip. So to set up the chase deck, shuffle an extra deck of action cards and deal them out in a row on the table. 9 is a good number for most chases. Add more as needed. So 9 is usually actually what you want to have as a chase. But yeah, so I'm gonna have to move a couple things, but I think I can get 9 on here. Just really got to get them tight. So we're going to add to the start end 5 of hearts and an ace of diamonds. So now break the participants into each group that will move and act independently. So if we're on, say, a boat, like we were with the team that were playing this last Thursday when I ran for the grown-ups, they are on a boat called the Bannon. Has a top speed of 90 miles an hour and a toughness of 14 with 2 of armor. But it has a sensor suite, long-range radio, life preservers, life rafts, all that kind of stuff. But it does not have, and it actually, I've even pushed a little bit that the Bannon is actually enough of a yacht-type boat that it can be lived on for a while. So they can go out to sea for days. But it does not have any armaments. The Iskrin is going to be the boat chasing them, and it does have a large deck gun on it that can shoot shells at them. It has a rate of fire of 1, but the damage if it hits is 3d10. So with a medium burst template even. So if you are doing a foot chase, each character acts independently. And the horde of extras chasing them can be broken up into groups the way you decide. So the rearmost character or vehicle should be at the rear on the far left card. Card 1. Everyone else should be placed to his right as fits the circumstances. Now, since I'm setting this up according to how you guys would be running it, it's going to be your left and then just to the right of that. So the range is the number of chase cards between participants, not counting the attacker's card. Times the range increment, which I already told you before, times 5 or times 25 or times 50. Now, chases are broken into rounds, and a lot of chases only last 5 rounds or more, but what they do get action cards. So once the participants are placed, deal each independent character or group group that's acting an action card. So the bad guys got a 6, and the good guys got the Joker. So they get an extra Benny. And oh gee, I just stuck that back in the deck. But yeah, the good guys got the Joker. So we'll just give them the red Joker for now. So what's going to happen is the players or the passengers on the boat can support their driver before the driver makes a critical roll. So they can also make tests to the foe to make them vulnerable, or attack before the vehicle changes distance, or after, to take maximum advantage of their weapons. So other players in the vehicle or on the boat, in this case, they are the ones who are going to fire. The participants can move along the track using change position maneuver, closing on foes, running from them, or attempting to reach some objective. The length of each round is up to the GM, but usually a combat round in a foot or car chase. So battles in space represent maybe many minutes per round till the action zooms in on the fast-paced dogfight. Boarders. So sometimes people board. Characters in or on an enemy vehicle get their own action cards. And that's for the group that's there. There's a minimum speed rule here that says the game master must decide who's allowed to participate in the chase. A kid on a bike might be able to chase bandits in a car if the streets are very congested, but is left behind after a round if he's on open road. A chase ends when one side gets away, or disables all pursuers, executes a flee maneuver, or is forced to stop. Participants can always choose to stop if they want, either dropping out or stopping to engage their enemies. A chase might also end after a certain number of rounds, or as one or more of those involved on each certain card along the track. So, or as one or more of those cards reach a certain card along the track. So you can have a track laid out. And we had this laid out in one of the games that I played for Big Apple Sewer Samurai, which I do miss playing that one with my friends. But life went on. They had different angles of the sewer laid out, so that was pretty cool. I was actually playing a guy who kind of looked like Tom Selleck. He was pretty cool. Anyway, so when you reach a certain card along the track, maybe that's the end. In a World War II bombing run, for example, bombers might need to reach the last card on the track to drop their payload. The fighters scrambling after them must try to stop them before they reach their target. So that's a good example. Now, chase actions. These are actions that the main actor, the pilot of the boat, the driver, still pilot of a boat, but they use boating. The pilot of the boat or the pilot of the plane or the spaceship, they are the ones who are actually going to make the final thing. Now, certain tests and support usages don't make sense. So, if somebody's going to try and make a taunt roll, at their opponent, the defender's got to be able to see or hear the taunt for it to be effective. So, non-player characters on crews and on ships, starships, and other large vehicles are assumed to be doing their jobs already and shouldn't roll support or tests. Those special actions are the domain of the player characters, named extras and wildcards, including those on the opposing side. A character can hold an action, or if they're on hold, they can attempt to interrupt enemy actions as usual. In personal combat, including foot chases, the two make opposed athletics rolls. When mounted, opposed riding rolls. Vehicle chases, it has to be the GM. You as the GM will determine whether what skills are most appropriate. Athletics versus maneuvering to interrupt the driver, for example. So you might have boarded or jumped inside their car and you're trying to do an athletics roll against their driving to try and get the car to stop chasing. Trying to act before an entire vehicle or ship, the group with multiple characters takes its action, and the opposed roll should be made against the driver or leader of the vehicle. So, maneuvers include boarding, like sailing ships. So this can represent you're on the same chase card and make opposed maneuvering rolls. If the attacker is successful, two vessels will be joined by grappling hooks and pulled in or something like that. The crew can board the enemy craft. And that's where it becomes regular fighting again, uses the regular rules. But if the defenders have been if defenders have been designated to repel boarders and weren't being used for other purposes, like sailing or crewing the stations, they start on hold unless the attacker won the boarding roll with a raise. So once a boarding action begins, the commander of the boarding vessel can only attempt to change position, which is made at a -4 if grappling lines, tractor beams, or other restraints are involved. If she's successful, her vehicle is no longer grappled. So the former defending captain can try and get the ship free. And though there still may be some boarders on the ship, with a raise, she breaks free and can move one chase card in either direction. So she can fall back or move forward. So change position is falling back or moving forward. And you can do that as a action or a free action. So incidentally, boarding is an action. So you have to use that as an action. You have to make a regular roll and everything like that. But you can do change position as a free action. If you do it as an action, you get +2 to the roll. And you can only use this maneuver once a turn. And if rider, runner, ship, vehicle's top speed is faster than the fastest of his rivals, he adds a +1 to his maneuvering to change position, or +2 if he's twice as fast. Dropping back, and I'm so sorry for being as tired as I am. I really apologize for that, but I'm trying to help you guys get through this. You can drop back 1 or 2 chase cards without making a maneuvering roll. And you can't change position further. Now, you could take as your action, since you can only do 1 free action in a turn, you could take as your action to evade. So you could advance a card and evade. So that is an option there. Melee and ranged attacks against you suffer a -2 penalty until the start of your next turn, of the vehicle's next turn. And anybody who's on the vehicle that's taking evasive action is going to take a -2 penalty as well. And also remember, when you're running this, to make sure that you are running your penalty for uneven ground and things like that, unless they have steady hands. So that's everything up through that. So I thought I was wrapping up before, but apparently my camera had stopped. So I apologize if I'm not picking up exactly what the train of thought that I was covering before. But what's happening on evasive action is that you make maneuvers or you run back and forth in order to avoid being hit, use obstacles and cover, things like that. And so anybody trying to hit you takes a -2 penalty with a melee or ranged weapon. But at the same time, you also get a -2 penalty for trying to hit them back. So other options once you are done with evasive action is you could flee. That takes an action. You could force them, like ram into them if you're on the same card, on the same chase card, and that does a bump. You do opposed maneuver rolls, and if you succeed, you bump. If you fail, nothing happens there. And the maneuvering skills we covered before. You can hold steady, so that ignores the unstable platform and running penalties. So there are running penalties when you're running full tilt. And but attacks against the vehicle and all its occupants, or the person who's just holding steady, are at a +2 until the beginning of their next turn. And it does not stack with vulnerable. So you can't make somebody vulnerable and then, if they hold steady, get an extra +2. So that's the little bit there. You can ram, and that all comes down to size, scale, toughness, speed, things like that. But there's some specific rules there of the damage is based on the scale of the vehicle it's ramming, things like that. If you get a complication, that is, you get dealt an action card that is a club, then depending on what card you're on, you get a penalty or to your roll. So you get the complication. You're going to make a free action that's a roll of your maneuvering roll. Let's say boating, for example. So he gets dealt a club, he rolls his die, and he happens to be on a club. So he makes that with a -2 modifier. Do it on a heart too, or not a heart, but a diamond. You do it on a diamond as well. And if he fails on that -2 roll in the club, then you treat the failure as a critical failure on the maneuvering roll, and that takes you into critical failure land on the out of control table. But if you're on a joker, you do get a +2. So if there's a joker on the track, you get a +2, and the character vehicle is bumped up 2 chase cards. And you can apply special conditions to complications and trigger a special condition or hazards for the encounter. So maybe it triggers reinforcements anytime a diamond complication occurs. Or the first character to fail a club complication is hit by lightning during a battle in a fierce storm. That kind of thing. So we're going to pick up next time with attacks and how they are made and how they are used in ranged and melee while the chase is on. So I'm not going to actually run this chase today, but I will make sure that I look around and do my best to find that tripod and get that back in action again, because I'm going to try and use my phone camera and do a downward point and do a chase for you as a third video in this series of chases. So I hope that this is making sense. I hope this is helping you, and I hope that you are enjoying your time here with me. I've had a great time being able to explain these things to you, and I hope to see you someday at my table. So until then, this is Mason Emerson with ACE Roleplaying Games, where we're gaming for good, reminding you that I love you. You are amazing, and the world is a better place because you're in it. You're awesome, and I'm grateful you're here. Thanks again.